Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah, amma ba'd. Fassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem. Welcome to Blossoming Believers, a series where we explore educational verses related to the Qur'an. Today we will be exploring how human beings are like plants and what our job is as educators and parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an regarding Maryam radiyallahu anha, فَتَقَبَّلَهَا رَبُّهَا بِقَبُولٍ حَسَنٍ وَأَنْبَتَهَا نَبَاتًا حَسَنًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted her most graciously and raised her most honorably. The word ambata and nabat in Arabic come from the growing of plants. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the same term elsewhere in the Qur'an, where He says, وَاللَّهُ أَنْبَتَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ نَبَاتًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all of you, all of us human beings, from the ground like plants. Just as each plant is unique in its own way, requiring its own needs, each child is also unique in its own way and requires its own needs. And it has its own creativity, its own interests, and its own strengths and weaknesses. It is our job as parents and educators to facilitate the growth of our children and our students. This is why we teach our children to make dua for us. رَبِّ رَحْمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. O my Lord, have mercy on my parents, the way they facilitated my growth when I was small. The word رَبَّيَانِي is directly related to the word tarbiyah, or education in Islam. رَبَّ يُرَبِّي tarbiyah. As such, parents and educators need to recognize the individual needs and individual differences of their children and their students. The Prophet ﷺ said, كُلٌّ مُيَسَّرٌ لِمَا خُلِقَ لَهُ. Everybody will find it easy to do what they were born to do. Therefore, we need to foster the creativity and needs of our students and our children rather than wanting to make them clones of ourselves. Recognizing individual differences and fostering their growth is part of critical faithfulness. The Prophet ﷺ elaborates on this very eloquently in the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ compares the knowledge and guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him to rain that falls on earth. And he compares the people who receive this knowledge and guidance to three types of land. One land is fertile. It absorbs the water, processes it, and produces crops and plants of its own. The Prophet ﷺ compares this type of land to the person who comprehends Allah's religion and teaches it to others. This demonstrates an achieved mode of religious subjectivity, where learners take benefit from knowledge, process it, and produce something new. The second type of land is hard. It retains the water and becomes a pond or reservoir. Specialist scholars say this refers to a foreclosed mode of religious subjectivity, where teachers are reduced to nothing more than mere repositories, and the only benefit that they can give others is one of transmission. The third land is barren. It neither holds water nor can it produce any vegetation. The Prophet ﷺ likens this land to the person who does not receive Allah's guidance or knowledge. Educationally speaking, this refers to the diffused mode of religious subjectivity. Our job as parents and educators is twofold. One is to become the first type of land that absorbs knowledge, processes it, and brings forth vegetation. And the second is to facilitate this type of growth in our students and children, where they too absorb the water, process it, and bring forth vegetation. Naturally, this means we have to recognize individual differences and foster each individual need. Rather than making clones of ourselves, we engage in capacity building. This is where the Prophet ﷺ stands out from other leaders. Rather than making the companions miniature versions of himself, he built each individual to be the best version of themselves that they can be. He built Abu Bakr, Umar, Fatima, Aisha radiyallahu anhum ajma'in to be the best versions of themselves that they can be. And this is what we must aspire to as parents and educators as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to act upon this. Ameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.